117 countries want to sign this. 117, Sam, and you're just like, no, it's cool, we got
How
it.
long are you going to play both sides?
I have an equation.
Oh, this will clear it up.
This is the most important 4 minutes in the entire MCU. Not the most exciting, not the most quotable, but the most consequential. Because it proves that you really don't need an Infinity Stone to break the Avengers. You just need a binder full of paperwork, some guilt, and a difference of opinion. Here's the thing about the Avengers. Before Civil War, they were basically running the most powerful private security force in human history, and nobody was asking questions. Which, to be fair, worked pretty well until Lagos. Lagos wasn't even supposed to be a big mission, just a routine stop-the-bad-guy operation. Except Crossbones had other plans. Wanda Maximoff, still learning to control her powers, tried to contain the blast. She did contain it, pushed it away from the crowded street and into a building full of humanitarian workers. Now here's where it gets psychologically fascinating. She made the best possible split-second decision under impossible pressure. But that's not how the world saw it. The world saw a young woman with dangerous powers losing control and involving innocent people in the process. The world saw a pattern of destruction that had been building since 2012, and the world had had enough.
That is it! Get up! Get back! Come here! Go there!
Remember Ross? The guy who spent an entire movie trying to weaponize the Hulk, turning Bruce Banner into a hunted fugitive and accidentally creating the Abomination in the process. Yeah, that guy. Mr. I create the monsters I chase himself. Except now he's the US Secretary of State, and he's got a new strategy. He doesn't want to capture superheroes anymore. He wants to leash them. Picture this. You're an Avenger. You've saved the world multiple times. You've sacrificed everything, your privacy, your safety, your relationships, to protect humanity from existential threats. And then some government official makes you sit through a highlight reel of every time you accidentally destroyed a building or failed to save everyone. New York? Here's footage of debris raining down while you're busy fighting aliens. Washington, D.C.? Here's those helicarriers you dropped, destroying state infrastructure and scaring the public. Sokovia? Here's an entire city being ripped from the ground. Lagos? Fresh wound, still bleeding. And Ross just lets it sit there. Lets them marinate in their failure. Then he drops the line. What would you call a group of US-based enhanced individuals who routinely ignore sovereign borders and inflict their will wherever they choose? The answer hangs in the air, unspoken. So what's Ross's solution? The Sokovia Accords. A nice, professional-sounding name for what's essentially a supernatural registry and control system. And if you refuse, there's a lovely underwater supermax prison called the Raft waiting for you. Oh, and 117 countries have already signed off on this. You're not arguing with Ross, you're arguing with the entire world. It's brilliant in a terrifying kind of way. Ross isn't trying to beat the Avengers, he's trying to make them beat themselves. And it works. What happens next is the most important 4 minutes in the entire MCU, because this is where the Avengers, the team that survived aliens, robots, and literal gods, tear themselves apart over a philosophical debate. And every single person in that room, they're right. That's what makes it so brutal. Let's start with Tony Stark, Mr. Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist himself.
Yeah, I can fly.
Right before this meeting, Tony got ambushed by a grieving mother. Her son, Charlie Spencer, was caught in the chaos. Tony's been carrying the weight of his mistakes for years. He built the weapons that affected thousands. He built Ultron, the AI that tried to end everything. Every good intention he's ever had has blown up in his face, literally. So when he says,
We need to be put in check.
he meant it. He's not trusting himself anymore. He's definitely not trusting the team. He wants someone, anyone, to tell him when to stop before he creates another extinction-level event. It's like asking someone else to hide your credit card because you can't stop online shopping. Except instead of buying stuff you don't need, you're building the Ultron program. Tony's position is pure utilitarian philosophy. Minimize harm by any means necessary, even if that means surrendering freedom. And then there's Steve Rogers.
I could do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Captain America, the man out of time. The guy who's supposed to represent the best of American values. Except Steve's American values include a healthy distrust of authority. because he literally watched the government organization he worked for, S.H.I.E.L.D., turn out to be secretly run by Hydra. Steve's argument is simple.
It's not S.H.I.E.L.D., it's not Hydra.
No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change.
Today, the UN panel might be full of good people making good decisions. Tomorrow? Who knows? What if they order the Avengers to do something evil? What if they prevent them from stopping a disaster because it's politically inconvenient? He's seen it before. He knows how institutions rot from the inside. So when he says, the safest hands are still our own, he's not being arrogant. He's refusing to outsource his moral responsibility to a committee. It's the classic superhero dilemma. If you see someone drowning and a bureaucrat tells you not to jump in without proper authorization, do you let them drown? Steve's answer:
No! No!
But it's not just Tony versus Steve. Everyone else in that room brings their own baggage. Vision, the android who can literally calculate probabilities, drops the coldest line of the whole debate. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. And conflict breeds catastrophe. He's basically saying, the Avengers existing makes the world more dangerous because bad guys keep leveling up to fight them. It's the superhero arms race, and maybe the only way to de-escalate is to put yourself in check. Natasha is playing 4D chess. She doesn't care about the philosophy. She cares about keeping the family together.
If we have one hand on the wheel, we can still steer.
Sign the thing. Maintain some control. Live to fight another day. Sam Wilson asks the question nobody wants to answer. How long before they LoJack us like common criminals? Because he's seen how the government treats its veterans, and he knows this ends with them in cages. Rhodey, career military, thinks the whole thing is simple. You follow orders. You respect the chain of command. Operating without oversight isn't heroic, it's dangerously arrogant. And Wanda? She barely speaks. She just sits there, drowning in guilt, knowing this whole thing started because she lost control for half a second. Here's what's genius about how the Russos shot this scene. It looks like a divorce. The lighting is cold, fluorescent, clinical. Gone is the warm, golden glow of their party scenes from Age of Ultron.
I drop it at his feet. I'm like, boom, you looking for this?
This is where relationships go to die. Tony's pacing, can't sit still. He's physically separating himself from the group. Steve's rooted at the table, immovable, reading every word of the Accords like he's studying a trap. The camera keeps putting them on opposite sides of the frame, never looking at each other. The visual language of disconnection. And when Tony projects a hologram of Charlie Spencer, everyone's forced to look down at the coffee table, at their failure, made physical. It's intimate, claustrophobic, painful. The Russo brothers shot this like a documentary of a family falling apart, because that's exactly what it is. What makes this scene legendary isn't the arguments themselves, it's that both sides are completely valid. Tony's advocating for Hobbesian philosophy. In a state of nature, without authority, everything descends into chaos. You need a Leviathan, a governing body, to maintain order. Steve's channeling John Locke and Immanuel Kant. Individuals have natural rights and moral duties that no government can override. You can't surrender your conscience to a committee. It's security versus liberty. The same debate humanity's been having since the beginning of civilization, and the MCU doesn't pick a side. It just shows you the cost of both positions. Sign the Accords? You might end up enforcing unjust laws or sitting idle while people die waiting for approval. Refuse? You become a fugitive, operating in the shadows, constantly looking over your shoulder. There's no right answer, just consequences. But hovering just outside that conference room is the real architect of the Avengers' collapse, Baron Zemo.
Who are you? What do you want? To see an empire fall.
Zemo's power was never physical, it was psychological. He didn't attack the Avengers head-on because he understood something no villain before him ever did. You don't defeat gods by fighting them. You let them fight themselves. Zemo studied them like case files, their histories, their failures, their trauma responses. He saw the cracks long before Ross ever presented the Sokovia Accords. And that conference room debate? That wasn't just a disagreement. It was an earthquake, one Zemo had been waiting for. Because Zemo isn't motivated by conquest, he's motivated by loss. Remember, his family died in Sokovia, not because Ultron won, but because the Avengers did. That's why his philosophy is so devastatingly simple. An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one that collapses from within, that stays dead. Lagos was the spark, but the fuel had already been stacked neatly in that conference room. Guilt, fear, mistrust, and ideology, all waiting to catch fire. Zemo framed Bucky, not to destroy him, but to force Steve into an impossible position. Loyalty versus accountability, friendship versus the system. And he knew exactly how Tony would react, because Tony was already halfway broken. All Zemo had to do was push. He took Tony's guilt and sharpened it with the truth about his parents' death. He took Steve's distrust of authority and turned it into a trap. Without that conference scene, without that philosophical fracture between control and conscience, Zemo's plan dies on the page.
You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
A hero? Like you? You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers.
So they split. Tony signs, Steve refuses, the team fractures. Airport fight happens. Everyone picks sides, and then Thanos shows up. Here's the tragedy. The Avengers almost beat Thanos. Multiple times. They came so close. On Titan, they almost got the gauntlet off. Forget Star-Lord. If they'd had just one more heavy hitter, like, say, Scarlet Witch, they would have won. In Wakanda, they were defending Vision without their best strategist, Iron Man, and arguably their heaviest firepower, Doctor Strange, who Tony convinced to follow him to Titan when he could have just turned back the Q-ship and link up with Cap and the other Avengers to form a unified front, and even stand a better chance against Thanos. Vision himself was vulnerable because he's been in hiding with Wanda, a fugitive, instead of being protected at the Avengers compound with the team like Tony suggested in Civil War. When the Black Order attacks New York, that flip phone becomes a symbol of everything broken between them. By the time he works up the courage, it's too late. He's already being taken off-world. The Russo brothers confirmed it. The Avengers lost because they were divided. That conference room debate? That wasn't just a disagreement. It was the scene where the universe lost.
I said we'd lose. You said, we'll do that together too. And guess what, Cap? We lost.
Even after Endgame, the Sokovia Accords cast a shadow over everything. WandaVision? Wanda's grief-induced mental breakdown happens partly because she's been isolated, on the run, separated from any support system, a direct result of Civil War. Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Sam struggling with the weight of the shield while being a pardoned fugitive. The world's in chaos, partly because the Avengers were too broken to hold it together during the blip. The world realized that bureaucratic red tape on superheroes was a death sentence when cosmic threats kept showing up. Steve was right, but he was right too late to save half the universe.
Wow, it's so weird how you run into people at the airport. Don't you think that's weird?
Definitely weird.
Look, I get it. The airport fight in Civil War was spectacular. Giant Man was incredible. The choreography was perfect. It's pure spectacle. But spectacle doesn't break universes. Ideas do. Arguments do. Moral dilemmas do. That conference room scene is what separates the MCU from every other superhero franchise. It took the time to ask, what does power actually cost? Who gets to decide how it's used? What happens when good people disagree about the right thing to do? And it didn't give us an easy answer. It gave us a tragedy. Because both Tony and Steve were trying to save the world. They just had different definitions of what that meant. Tony wanted to save the world from the Avengers. Steve wanted to save the world with them. And in trying to do both, they accomplished neither. You know what the most powerful ability in the MCU isn't? It's not super strength, not magic, not infinity stones. It's the power to make a choice and live with the consequences. That's what this scene is really about. Not politics, not registration, not even superhero oversight. It's about whether you trust yourself to make the right call when everything's on the line. Tony didn't trust himself, so he signed. Steve trusted himself too much, so he refused. And the universe paid the price for both decisions. So here's my question for you. What would you have done? Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. There's no safe answer. There's no version of this story where everyone wins. There's just the choice you make and the world you create with it. The Avengers made their choice in that conference room, and it echoed through every movie that came after. The real question is, What choice would you make? Drop it in the comments. Let's debate. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, do well to subscribe and check my other video on the Captain America problem Ultron warned us about. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.